There are many incredible breeds of pigs that have been developed over the years, from small breeds to large breeds. In this episode, we'll explore the amazing evolution of pig breeds, dive into heritage breeds, and uncover which are right for the homestead growing model. Let's get growing. Hello, and welcome to the Pray Just Plant podcast, the show that talks about growing a garden, a homestead, a healthy family, and most importantly, growing closer to God. I'm your host, Crystal Media, owner of the Red Ridge Farm Homestead, where our mission is to help women of faith find the courage to grow healthy food for their family while building a closer relationship with our Lord and Savior. If that's you, don't let the world hold you back. Pray, just plant. Hello, fellow growers, and welcome to the Pray Just Plant podcast. I'm your host, Crystal Media, and today, in Season 10, Episode 13, we're going to talk about pigs. Maybe you've been thinking about adding pigs to your homestead, and you just don't know which breed to add, or you're wondering if pigs is the right animal for you. There's different animals that we can add to our homestead, and sometimes it's important to find the right animal for your terrain, the right animal for your climate, and all of the things. So today, I'm going to share with you a few little things that I learned over the years about pig breeds and how they've changed. And we're going to dive into heritage breeds and also discuss what is a homestead pig? What is the purpose of the homestead pig, and why do we need to find the pig or the pig breed that will fit in the homestead growing model? So let's first talk about pigs over time and how they've evolved and how they became domesticated and all of the things. Pigs were first brought to America by Columbus in 1493, again with De Soto in 1539 and other earlier explorers from all over Europe. The types of pigs imported were not well documented until after the 1800s, when a multitude of breed names began to appear in the historical records. The most important were three important breeds that were imported. They were the Berkshire, the Big China, and the Irish Grazer, which were widely used as improvers of common stock. Pigs were an essential part of every farm, being used for home production of lard and pork. See, now that's not something that we think about when we think about a pig. We don't think about lard. And a lot of the heritage breeds that we're going to be talking about, one category of them are lard pigs. And in the day, lard was a very large staple of the home, of the homestead. Lard is very universal. There's lots of, I'm not going to get into it, but there's lots of scientific things saying that lard is not good for you. But as we have evolved and as we have moved into the seed oils, health has decreased. It hasn't increased. So maybe there's something wrong with that statement. So when we think about the older pigs and the purpose of them, it's a little different than what we see today. And that's because of the evolution and the change that pigs have undergone to fit into our industrial system. Let's talk again about a little bit of the beginnings of the pig breeds here in America. Before the 1800s, there wasn't really a centralization of pig breeds yet. There was more of just a characterization of what kind of breeds would grow or did grow in certain regional areas. An example of this is like the Alpine goat. If you go over to the Swiss mountains or the Alpines and you find the breed of an Alpine goat, you can go to different regions, maybe even just 50 miles apart, where the breed is different. They're still all Alpine goats, but the coloring's different, the taste of milk is different, the size of the animal is different. So that was the same thing that was happening with pigs in the early to mid 1800s. And there just wasn't a lot of them. It wasn't a big industry until we really started developing our grain system and making grain more easily readable for farmers and for growers. So if you think about it, if when we go back in time to harvest wheat or to harvest corn, it was all physical manual labor. So this wasn't something that was going to be given to animals first. It was going to be for human consumption first. So pigs on the homestead or the heritage pigs were raised to grow on scraps. They weren't raised to grow on grains, and they weren't raised to become huge fast. And that's what, when you dive into those heritage breeds, you're going to find out that the pigs are going to be a slower grower. They're going to take time to grow. That's what a slower grower means. And an easy example of this would be in the chicken industry. So you have meat chickens, and any chicken, even if it lays eggs, because all chickens lay eggs, but even if it's a layer, it can be butchered and consumed as meat. But over time, we've developed really high, fast-growing meat chickens that only take 8 to 12 weeks to butcher. So that's what I mean by a fast-growing breed. So a slow-growing breed is going to take longer than that to come to harvest. And we're going to talk about that a little bit too. But in the beginning, all the pigs were just an addition to the farm. Every farm needed one because a pig was used to clean up the waste from the home, clean up the waste from the farm, and more. Into the 1800s, especially into the 1900s, we began to really bring in more characteristics and defining breeds and pig production. And also in those same years, we see a growth in, especially in the Midwest of the United States, they begin to produce excess corn and excess grains, more than the human consumption. And what best to put excess to, and that's to pigs. So slowly over the years, the pigs have changed from a smaller breed to these larger, fast-growing breeds. And you'd have to go into a historical site to really find all of the different kind of breeds that were in America before we started centralizing our food system. I'm going to include a link to the Livestock Conservancy website. In this link, you'll be able to learn more about the different breeds, the older breeds, and more of those heritage type breeds. And it really talks about how the market changed. Not only the market changed, but the way the pigs were being raised and the industry changed for the way that the pigs were being fed and more, just because of the technology of grain being more easily produced. Once we've got really centralized with our food industry, there was really only two types about World War II that were being produced, not two breeds, but two types of pigs that included several different breeds. There was the lard type and the bacon type. Lard breeds were used to produce lard, a cooking fat, and a mechanical lubrication. In fact, during World War II, lard was used in manufacturing explosives, which I thought was just completely strange and amazing. With the lard being diverted to military purposes in World War II, people had to start switching over to vegetable oils for cooking. Isn't that amazing? That's the reason, in a way, we switched more to vegetable oils because there were, of course, high demand of lard. And then we also had large factories making vegetable oils, and then they just didn't know how to market it to the public. And with that turn during World War II, it really helped push the vegetable oils into the mainstream, because normally everybody used lard for cooking. That was a staple because that was something that came from the past and continued forward, because vegetable oils are technically invented. They're technology. They're not something that you and I can make in our kitchen, but lard is something that I can grow, you can grow, and so on. Let me talk a little bit more about these types of pigs. These pigs were compact and thick with short legs and deep bodies. They fattened quickly on corn, and their meat had large amounts of fat in it. This was considered desirable for improved taste and keeping quality of pork. In contrast, bacon pigs were long, lean, and muscular. They were traditionally fed on legumes, small grains, turnips, and dairy byproducts. As a result, bacon pigs grew more slowly and put on more muscle than fat. Almost all American pig breeds were considered lard type, with only the Yorkshire and the Tamsworth classified as bacon breeds. Isn't that amazing that back in the day, not more than 80 years ago, right? World War II was about 80 years ago. There were more lard breeds than bacon breeds. Now, if you go into the industry now, there's more bacon breeds than lard breeds available. That's why there is a livestock conservancy, is because there are people trying to bring back those heritage breeds, not necessarily bring them back, but they've always been there, but in small herds. We're trying to bring them even more into the market, especially for us. Because when you look at that description of a lard pig being thick, compact, with short legs and deep bodies, that's going to be something that's going to fit a little bit easier in the homestead model because we're thinking small, right? Maybe we don't have a large amount of land. And I'm going to talk about with you the breed that we chose just because they were readily available here. We had a couple breeders local, but I wanted to go towards that lard heritage breed instead of the commercial breed. Because when we were looking for pigs to grow here on our farmstead, all that was available to us was the bacon pigs. Now, I love bacon, and we've had to learn how to change our mindset with how we harvest the and use the pig meat because it is from a lard breed. It's different than from a bacon breed, and I do crave some bacon, and sometimes we just purchase bacon from a local grower, and that just balances it out. But I want you to really think about when you are thinking about bringing pigs onto your homestead or deciding what breed you want, to really think about what are the purposes you need. Do you really, really, really need to have bacon, or can you outsource bacon? And maybe you want to venture into lard and use that in your household. I use lard, I think, every single day. And I use it for my hands when they're chapped from the garden. I use it to make lotions and balms for my face. I've used it for cooking, like all the time. My best biscuits are made from lard. Best pie crusts have lard. It's just a really great resource. And maybe it's something that you want to get into. Because we're also going to talk about a little bit, yes, when they're talking about lard breeds, that yes, you needed to feed them corn and grains, but I currently raise a lard breed pig and I don't feed hardly any grains. She gets maybe a scoop to half a scoop a day, and the rest is scraps from the garden and scraps from the farm because she is also a grazer, and we're going to get into her type of breed in just a moment. So as you can see, the evolution of the pigs has changed. Pigs used to be an integral part of the substance and diversity commercial farming, and every farmer kept a few pigs. But in contrast, today, production is dominated by a few large corporations which are all virtually integrated. They're all like a monoculture. There's only a couple places that grow the pigs, produce the pigs, and have breeding stock. And those pigs need to fit a certain size, a certain weight. And what do we want in our supermarkets? We want those bacon pigs. So when you look at the industry now, you're going to find more of those. Today, the pork industry rests on only a three-way cross. That's 3 different breeds. So all of the pigs that are processed and put into supermarkets are only 3 breeds. So here in America, we had hundreds and hundreds of breeds of pigs, and now we only have in the industry 3 that are crossbred with each other or purebreds and so on. And they are the Durocs, the Hampshire, and the Yorkshire breeds. There's 7 other commercial breeds that remain, including the Berkshire, the Poland, and Poland China, but most have declined because of the industry. And actually, we do have in America, we have rare breeds. Yes, there's rare breeds of pigs. Isn't that amazing? So let's get into, we've discussed how pigs have changed. We've discussed why they've changed. Let's go into the breeds, right? Let's talk about some heritage breeds that are really great for the homestead. So heritage breeds are breeds that are back before the really centralized industrial farming of pigs. Remember I said currently now they're only really using 3 breeds in rotation. There's 7 commercial breeds, but the majority of them are those 3. So heritage breeds are going to be all the ones before that time. And I'm thinking they're going to be the ones right before World War II and early 1900s. Now I want to share a blog post that I found. I'm going to put it in the description in the show notes that talks about these different breeds. So the first one of a heritage breed that might be great for your homestead is the red wattle. Red wattle is commonly identified through their color, which ranges from light blonde red to dust red, and the distinctive wattles. They're kind of like little on their necks. They've got little bumps that hang down that has hair that grows on them. Sometimes they can have black markings on their belly, but they usually at full grown, they weigh about 100 to 1,000 pounds. This is where you're going to be thinking about when you're going to be breeding them. If that's something that you're going to be talking about, most pigs are still all depending on how quickly they grow, because the pigs that I have chosen for our homestead, it takes almost 2 years to get them up to adulthood to raise babies. But the ones that we want to consume earlier than that, about 10 months, 8 to 10 months. Red wattles reach table weight very quickly. Though large in size, these red hogs are not difficult to raise. Besides their rapid growth, they are gentle and have incredible mild temperament. When breeding, they will birth out or sow about 7 to 12 piglet in each litter. I mean, if this is something you're thinking about and raising them, I don't raise them myself. I just have a breeder that I purchase her cull animals, ones that she ensure that they're not going to be used for breeding, because she has very high standards to her breeding animals that she sells. So anything that she doesn't feel that is of that standard, she sells to me, because she knows I'm not going to be breeding it. I'm going to be consuming it. The next breed is the large black breed. Large black breeds have been bred for their large size and their foraging ability. So, like I said, when you get into these heritage breeds, they're not going to be just being fed grains. They're going to be able to forage, like these large black pigs. They're going to be able to go out and forage. They're foragers. They have black skin color to protect them from sunburn, especially in hot climates. So if you're more down south in Texas, this might be a great breed for you. It almost went extinct. Can you believe this? In 1960s, after World War II, when the intensive, everything started going commercially, because this just wasn't a breed that fit into that dynamic. This is also going to be a bacon breed, so they're known for having the right body size and length to make delicious bacon. The next is, I hope I'm saying this right, is the Meshan pig. It originated in China. Meshan pigs may be the oldest heritage breed in the world. The adult Meshan pigs weigh around 275 to 375 or 300 to 400, depending on if it's male or female, and have excellent maternity skills, weaning more than 20 piglet each. Their supreme marble meat makes an excellent choice for meat animals. They are also popular choice among family farms because they're very docile and quiet, characteristics enabling them to manage these heritage pigs very easily. If you're small scale, this is us, right? On homesteads, independent producers who has a small farm and are able to provide a high fiber diet and roughage, then the Meshan pig is a good option. In fact, because of the change that we talked about around World War II, the Meshan pig are considered another rare breed. And in fact, there are actually some of these pigs in zoos and some research facilities because this pig is so rare. So then the next one, which probably you've heard of this one, is the mulefoot hog. It's an American heritage hog breed. The mulefoot weighs around 400 to 600 pounds at maturity and are known to have solid, non-cloven hooves that are an advantage in wet conditions. So cloven hooves means that they have the two hooves that come together. They're typically medium size with black bodies, often with white markings. This breed became very popular around the 1900s, but then it collapsed and the breed standard closed, meaning that there were very few of them. In fact, as of 2006, they have estimated that there are fewer than 200 purebred mulefoot hogs in existence. So maybe this is a hog for you. Not only is it something that'll fit on your homestead, but it's something that you can feel that you are preserving history in raising these types of pigs. The next is the Tamworth. It's a heritage pig. It's oriented in Ireland and is one of those that is exposed outdoors, something that likes to get around and hunt for its own food. And because they have a lower energy diet, they can produce lean and fine meat even without grains. They eat grass and are excellent. Their average size is about 500 to 600 pounds at maturity. The next is the American Yorkshire pig. The Yorkshire pig was developed in England in the country of York. First Yorkshire pigs were brought to the United States into Ohio around 1830. From there, they were bred into the American Yorkshire pig. So they've changed the characteristics of the original ones and created their own breed. The last one that I'm going to be mentioning before I talk about the pig breed that I chose is American Guinea Hog, one of the most popular swine breeds in the United States. These hogs were imported from West Africa and Canary Islands to America in conjunction with the slave trade. They even made their way up to Thomas Jefferson's home or farm in 1804, where they were called the Red Guineas. In the 1880s, the distinct red color was bred out. Guinea hogs were popular in the rural homesteads where they were expected to forage for their own food, eat rodents and snakes, and create a safe zone around the house. I think when it comes to the homestead breeds, we really think about the American Guinea Hog, the Mulefoot, and the breed that I chose, which is the Cooney hog. And each of these breeds, which I really didn't go into detail, some of them have trouble with being docile. Some of them are great at being docile and would fit into a homestead very nicely. So, and I'm not going to go into like what breed you should get, but let's talk about what breed fits well on a homestead. Well, we want something that's going to be smaller, or maybe we could do big if we have the right amount of space for it. Maybe we can go big if we're going to be thinking about we're only keeping this pig for 4 or 5 months and then it's going in the freezer. But if we're thinking about wanting something that fits in, it can take up a small little bit of space for a home pen, but also is going to help us with the grass consumption, or it's going to help us with rotational grazing or multi-species grazing. Pigs are great to be put into that multi-species as well. So when I really started considering breeds for our homestead, I had to go and I had to learn more. I mean, I knew I wanted something different. I knew I didn't want the traditional breeds that I raised pigs for 4-H. I bought them from a certain breeder. We raised them up for 4-H. They were butchered in 5 to 6 months and they were gone. They were huge. They were big. And yes, they produced lots of meat and they had great, amazing bacon and things. But on our homestead, I just didn't have the space for that. And I really didn't want the money input. But those types of breeds were industrial breeds, and they were breeds that grew very quickly, got very large very quickly. Number 2, with that large amount, we tried to home butcher here on the homestead, and we have butchered a few cows, but the size of a pig just seemed daunting to me, and I wanted something a little bit smaller. And maybe that's something that can be for you as well on the homestead. You want to butcher it yourself, but you don't want a huge and large pig, or maybe you have a facility close to you that can butcher this pig for you, so maybe that's the type of breed you want to go to. But the thing you need to think about is just how is this pig going to fit into your homestead? Are you wanting a pig that's going to forage? I wanted one that foraged. Coonies go out and consume grass. We actually have a little yard attached to our Cooney pen that we open a little gate and it goes out and grazes all day long and then comes back and just gets that a minimal amount of grain that we give it. We also give it food scraps. I also feed it weeds from the garden and so on. So there are a wide variety of pigs. So when I wanted to learn more about pigs, I dived into a book by Jerome D. Belanger. It's called Raising the Homestead Pig. And it really got into helping me think about how I wanted to feed my pig. Did I want to feed the industry? Did I want an industry pig? Or did I want a heritage breed pig? Or did I want just a pig that would just be by itself? I can feed it what I had available, which what I have available because of my mini dairy is I have milk byproducts from my dairy. I've got weeds from the garden. I've got a grass. I've got a little bit of grain. And I wanted something that could get into that framework when it came to a pig. And thankfully, locally, I could find a Cooney pig. And every year I purchase a Cooney pig every May, and we raise it till about December because that's the best time for us to butcher here because the temperatures are cooler, the flies are gone and such here in Wyoming. And so then we butcher it ourselves and it goes into our freezer. Now I've had to change my mindset of what we use the heritage pig for because Coonies are lard pigs, meaning they're going to produce a large amount of lard, and the meat itself is even going to have a lot of fat in it. So we've tried to make bacon. It's just too fatty for that. We've tried to make hams. It's just too fatty for that. So we've resorted that when we buy ham and we buy bacon, we buy from another farmer that raises Berkshires, I believe. And she sells at the local farmer's market. And that's where we purchase our other parts of meat. But what do we use our kuni for? Well, we can up about probably 15 to 20 quarts of lard every winter that I use, and I've told you how I use lard. Then we take the rest of the meat and make sausage. Last year we decided to make brats, and they are amazing. We made cheddar brats, and it's just the perfect use for the meat from a kuni because you want a little bit of grease and you want a good flavor meat, and it was just perfect for that purpose. And so that's what we have done, and we are going to continue to do with our kuni pigs, because we do consume a lot of brats here on the homestead. With 3 boys and a husband who love brats, it was just a logical place to go. I am a little sad that I don't make my own bacon, but the people that we have found that we purchase our bacon from, they have it processed nitrate free, and it's just amazing bacon. So I hope that you have learned a little bit about different breeds, how the pig breeds have changed over the years in America, and how we as homesteaders need to think about breed, what they eat, and more when it comes to choosing a pig for our homestead or breeding pair for our homestead, however you see your future in pigs. This episode is in the homestead section of the growing journey. If this is something you're thinking about and you're just getting started, then please go and check out the Purposeful Growing Journey, where I have broke down our homesteading life or homesteading or the purposeful life into about 6 stages. The just grow stage, and that's where you're just growing, you're figuring out your goals, you're figuring out if this lifestyle is for you. Then there's the kitchen stage, where I feel that every homestead should start is in our kitchen. Then you have the home, then you have the garden, then you have the homestead. We're adding these animals, and that's what we talked about today, adding animals to the homestead. And the last is the purposeful life, when we're putting all other 5 stages together and creating that life that we want, away from the systems, growing our own food, and producing the best for our family. So thank you for joining me here in this episode of the Pray Just Plant podcast. If you're new here, I want to welcome you to the Red Ridge Farm Fellowship of Fellow Growers. And as always, don't let the world hold you back. Pray Just Plant. This week's episode is brought to you by the Planning Beyond the Harvest handbook. This handbook was designed to help you get your harvest onto your family's plates. We grow all this delicious food, and sometimes in the garden planning, we forget about the harvest and beyond the harvest. This workbook will walk you through the 5 steps that I use to get beyond the harvest. You can grab your copy at redridgefarm.org/resources.